This is a video on how to do cables in double knitting. Cables in double knitting is basically the same technique as with regular knitting, except that you're using 2 pairs of stitches instead of 2 stitches. And so when you come over here, you need to do a left slanted cable. You need to get this one across the top of this one and the back stitch across to the back of the other of that one. And so to do this, one method of doing it is to simply go through the back between those 2 stitches, pick up the next 2 stitches, pull the left needle out, pick up the back stitch, pick up the front stitch. Now those 2 are crossed but have been separated, so one crosses on the front, one crosses on the back. You put the 2 stitches back onto your left hand needle and then you work them as usual. Now these, I'm going to work the colors as the yarn is. There are times when you will want to change the colors. That doesn't happen very often, but it will happen in the pattern I have, the leafy vine scarf. I do on occasions want to change the color, and I have indicated that by what colors are on the actual graph. Okay, now I'm going to work my next 2 stitches here. Now I alternately purl, so my knit stitches when I'm working them are on alternately mounted. That works better for me in my basic knitting. I've changed completely to that method. But it might confuse you a little bit. As you can see, this is alternately purled. Now I'm going to do another method of doing this is to just drop those 2 stitches off, kind of separate them out, put the stitches on, pick up the back stitch, and pick up the front stitch. And for most yarns, you can actually do that just as nicely as do it the other way, because most yarns will actually, if you don't pull and tug on them, will hold their stitches long enough to pick them up. And if the worst comes to worst, you can just pick up your drop stitch and put it back on. But once you've done this for a few times, you will find that it becomes quite natural to do this. It's a little more time consuming than just knitting, but all cables are. Okay, so now that's the second left slanted stitch. Now we are going to knit 1 pair here. No, yep. Knit 1 pair here. And now I am going to do a right slanted cable. Now right slanted cable has to be done in the opposite direction. So we're going to do it in the opposite direction. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to put everything to the right needle instead of leaving it on the left. Now this stitch has to go over to that side of that one, so it needs to be slid off. So I'm going to put my needle between those 2 stitches and then pick up these. Now this is a little more, takes a little bit longer to get used to coming around behind that. And then you're going to pick up the front stitch first. You're going to pick the stitches up in the order they need to be on the needle to work them. And that's basically what, when it's right, you go to the front. When it's left, you go to the back. I have my own little methods of remembering that. Left in Latin is sinistra. So I try to think of ways in my knitting to use that little piece of information. And the back is, if you're looking at someone's back, it's less preferable than looking at their front. So I think of the back as the left as sinistra, so when you're going left, when you have a left slanted stitch, you're going to pick up in the back. When you have a right slanted stitch, you're going to pick up in the front. I find little things like that to be quite helpful in my knitting. An SSK, for instance, has 2 S's in it, so it's a left slanted stitch. A knit 2 together is no S's, so it's a right slanted stitch. Just silly little things. Okay, so now I'm going to do another right. So I'm going to move everything over to this. And again, instead of going between the 2 from front to back and swinging around and picking those up, you can just drop those 2 off if you want. Some people actually pinch those so they don't go anywhere. I don't have a tendency to do that. I'm just going to bring those over to the left needle. I'm going to pick up my front stitch, and I'm going to pick up the back stitch. It is right there. Now I picked up a little bit more than I wanted to there, so I need to drop that again and pick it up again. And you can see, even with all that fiddling, I still was able to get that stitch picked up. So it's not as scary as it first seems to actually just drop those stitches. And that's going to be basically how you're the most comfortable doing it.